certification tips and tricks. We are also recording this, so if we're going too fast, you'll be able to come on back. One thing I want you to make a note of, that link that you see on the screen right now, that's full of resources that Katie and Guillaume are going to be going through. We want to maybe post that link in the chat, Guillaume, just so that everybody has this slide deck, which then will be a rich source of resources for you as well. If you missed this link, we'll get it posted in there again. And then before we officially get rolling, we want to stop and just take a moment to just recognize the land that we are on. So land acknowledgements, I think, I heard a beautiful analogy once that talks about land acknowledgements as if you're going to someone's home, right? If you go to someone's house, you don't just like race in the door and like run and jump all over the couch. No, you stop, you say thank you. You maybe take off your shoes. Perhaps you've brought a gift. But our land acknowledgements are almost like that. It's just recognizing these homes where we live. And so I'm based in Calgary. That's Treaty 7 territory, the home of the Blackfoot, the Siksika, the Piikani, the Kainai, Tsuut'ina, the Stoney Nakoda, Métis are all in this area. So I am in their homes. And so all of us, let's just take a moment and think about the land we're on. And if you haven't seen it, that link that's on that screen right now, native-land.ca, it is an amazing map with so much information, and you can find out more about the lands that you are on. With that, so my name is Michelle Armstrong. As I mentioned, I'm based in Calgary. I am one of the co-founders of the Cobblestone Collective. Cobblestone Collective, we are a third-party PD provider. We work with teachers and students all across Canada, and thrilled that we are working with Google for Education to be able to provide this workshop. Alongside me, we have the gentleman behind the Cobblestone Collective logo, Guillaume Laporte. You want to say a quick hello and let us know where you're at, who you are?
Yes, hello, my name is Guillaume Laporte. I'm from Sherbrooke, Quebec, thus the funny French-Canadian accent. I'll be hanging out in the chat and answering questions in English or in French, donc en anglais ou en français. Donc, n'hésitez pas, je suis là pour répondre à vos questions. So I used to be a robotics teacher. I'm an innovation consultant. I do Google training a little bit and coding, and I have a makerspace, and I work for museums and schools and businesses alike. So I love technology and I love Google products. So here I am.
Fabulous. And then the lady who's going to take you through most of the information today, Katie Eklund. Julie loves your background. I love your background too, Katie. Give an introduction. Tell us who you are.
Hi, everyone. My name is Katie, and I am located and live down in Southern California in the United States. So it's a couple hours earlier here for me, but I'm so excited to be joining you. And I love all things level 1 and level 2. So I'm excited to share that with you today. Where I live, I do work for a local school district and again, provide support and technology help and run a coding immersion program at one of our elementary schools and expanding. So I've been an elementary teacher and also support middle school and high school through technology integration through different tools and resources. And I have also been working with Cobblestone Collective for a few years now, and I absolutely love connecting. And shout out to a couple years ago when QPAT was in person, and I was actually there and helped do some pre-convention workshops with them as well. So I'm so grateful to be able to connect with all of you virtually today.
Awesome. Nice. Thanks, Katie. And as I mentioned earlier, so we are the Cobblestone Collective. We rely on consultants like Katie, like Guillaume, to help us do what we do. But also, we could not do what we do without the support of Google for Education. And we have two people joining us from Google. We have Sandy Curry. Sandy, come on out and say hello.
Good morning, everyone. Like Michelle said, Sandy Curry, STEM Program Manager for Google Canada. And just to give a little bit of context to that, I'm a retired school principal and teacher after 30 years with the Waterloo Region District School Board in Ontario. And nothing excites me more than to see energized educators up early in the morning, ready to learn and grow and be able to integrate and take things back to really help you drill down deeply with the curriculum and the kids in your class. So thrilled to be here with you this morning. As STEM program manager, we do a lot of work just exciting and engaging teachers and their students in all things STEM, but specifically computer science. And so we do a lot of scaling with CS First, our introductory block-based coding program. And although I know that's not the focus of today, I just wanted to make sure that you're aware of that. But super excited to be here with you, at least for a little bit this morning, and to be able to introduce to you not a new member to Google, but a new member to the Google for Education team. And so I'm going to turn it over to Rochelle. But educators, teachers, I hope you have a fantastic morning, and thanks for being here and learning alongside of us. Rochelle.
Thank you, Sandy. Yes, I'm Rochelle, and as Sandy mentioned, I've just joined the Google for Education team, but I've been working with Google on different educational initiatives for the past 3 or 4 years. But it's actually the first time there's going to be someone on the team dedicated to working in Quebec. So that's super, super exciting. On the personal side, I split my time between Quebec City and Toronto. My background, not in education, but in journalism. I worked with the CBC in Quebec City for many, many, many years. And there's a good chance if you work with the Central Quebec School Board, the Eastern Shore School Board, or the Eastern Township School Board, that I probably was in your school or in your classroom. I worked very closely with those school boards on many projects over more than a decade. So I'm going to introduce myself in English, but like Guillaume, je suis toujours disponible pour répondre à des questions en français. So never hesitate to reach out in French or in English. If we move the presentation forward, before we jump into the content today, I thought I'd very quickly point out a few of the ways I'm available to support schools and school boards. You see my email address at the bottom. Please take note. Since it's a new role, everything I'll be doing is new in terms of supporting Quebec. So I'm going to be working closely with IT administrators, directors of educational services, for example. So really with schools and school board leadership. On the right side, you see that column, IT administrators. So for example, when there are issues to escalate or there's additional technical support that's needed on the administrative side, I'll be there to support that. And that also extends to going deeper into understanding the different Google for Education tools that are available as they become available. So a lot of schools use the free Fundamentals edition of Workspace, Google Workspace for Education. And then there's a lot of schools that are using different paid editions. So I can help guide administrators through those differences and what it means right down to the classroom level. And then on the teacher side of things, I am hoping to offer more events like today's event, some more training opportunities specifically to educators in Quebec, including working closely with Sandy on the different programs that she runs. And I want to hear your feedback, the different Google tools you're using and how they could be better. So what I've learned in my short time in this role is that the Google for Education engineers, they use teacher feedback to make the decisions about the changes and the updates to the tools that we use every day. So a recent example of this is with Google Forms. Turns out a lot of teachers, you probably do this yourself, using forms for quizzes, for assignments. But what was happening is if a student navigated away from a form or they needed more time to complete the form, they would lose their work. And teachers said, it needs to autosave. We need to have an auto-saving feature. And that's now what happens. So now forms autosave, and that's directly because teachers sent the feedback through my colleagues and through different online forms, that's so funny, to make sure the feedback got back to the engineers. So the feedback from what's happening in your classrooms is really important. As I said, my email address is there. Please be in touch. loop in your school admin. If there are any IT admins on today's training, I especially want to hear from you. So reach out, whether you're watching live or you're watching the recording of today's session. And I hope to hear from you. And if not in the next few weeks, over the next few months and years, I'm just really excited that Google for Education is putting an emphasis on education in Quebec. So have a great session today. And I'm going to hand things over to Katie and Guillaume to get things started.
And I'm going to jump in just really quickly. I know I said I wasn't going to, but Rochelle, I think it's amazing. A lot of people don't recognize that Google has support out there and that you've just given your email address and suggested reach out to you. I think it's pretty amazing that Quebec has that dedicated support as well. Just awesome that you're in this new role. I'm super excited to have you here. So
thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, with that, there's also another link there on the screen. If you want any updates from Google to know what's new, what's coming down the pipe, that's an awesome site to just keep track of things. And again, as Rochelle mentioned, reach out to her. Careful what you wish for, Rochelle. All right, you guys. Well, I'm going to say goodbye for now. You are in amazing hands with Katie and Guillaume. Everyone just have a wonderful session and happy learning. So have a great day.
Thank you so much, everyone. We really appreciate it. We are going to have an awesome couple hours together working and talking about all things level 1. So I'm going to go ahead and just get my sharing adjusted so I have us all set up properly. And we're just going to dive right in and have a great day together. So let us know again if you have questions in the chat. Before I do start my screen sharing, I would like to share with all of you that please find that chat window because I am going to be asking questions and checking in with all of you because there are so many amazing tools across level 1 and 2. There will be times when I'm going to be asking for you to give me some feedback so I get a little bit better of an idea of what you want me to focus on and things like that along the way. So please make sure you find that chat window because we are going to definitely be using that chat together today. So I'm going to go ahead and start my sharing, and then we are just going to dive in together. And we are going to spend this first chunk of time really focusing on level 1. And then about halfway through or a little less, we'll be switching our focus over to level 2. Just the reason why I like to kind of build in a progression is, as you'll see, a lot of level 1 is foundational skills, and then it builds into a level 2, kind of taking it to the next level, a little bit more advanced. So I found it's kind of nice to start with that level 1 foundation and then build from there. But please let us know any questions you have along the way. We are here to help and support. We really want to make this as helpful for you. And also, I do want to just say that I will not be able to talk about every single tool that is referenced in these amazing resources today. However, there will be more resources and things coming your way after today's session as well. We will do our best to answer every question you have, but do also know there will be more resources coming your way. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to dive into our first amazing resource, which is our level 1 guide. We have it in English, or if you go forward a slide, it's also in French. But what I'm going to ask you to do is to find whichever one works best for you and go ahead and open that up. When you go to that link, you're going to be taken to a page that looks just like this. And it's going to ask you to make your own copy, because what's great about this is when you do this and click use that template, you are now going to have your own very own copy, and you can make all the notes that you would like in here. So we've really tried to make this into a digital notebook for you so that you can learn right alongside of us, but also add in any notes that you have. So please note that the one that you're going to see on the screen that I'm sharing is going to be my copy, but you can have me open in the Meet tab where you see my copy, and then yours open in another tab, and kind of toggle between the two if that works for you, so that you can take your own notes or things that you need along the way as well. So I just want to again share that we have just used the link from our slide deck here to go into our level 1 guide, and we're just going to kind of move our way through our level 1 guide. All right, so Again, this really is built for you to utilize and use whenever you need to. So before we dive into all of the nitty gritty with the different tools, we like to kind of just start with an exam overview. And we have some really great helpful tips and tricks in here that I won't read all of these, but I'm just going to kind of hit the highlight for you. A big thing that I do like to point out right here is the Teacher Center from Google. This is an amazing, amazing tool. And I highly, highly recommend checking it out because there are not only resources for level 1 and level 2, which is what we have linked right here for you, but there's resources for many different tools and many different resources. Google has put together a really comprehensive tool there. So that's a really foundational resource that I would encourage you to check out if you have never been there. We also, and before you can take your exam, there is a registration that you will need to do. And then you will also, once you've registered, it will take a little bit for your exam to be processed. Once your exam is processed, you will receive an email that your exam is ready for your level 1 or level 2. Both of it works exactly the same in terms of that registration process. And the exam, once you receive that email that it's ready, you'll have 8 days to sit and take the exam. And from when you receive the email. So that's kind of the key part, is you don't want to register until you know that you're going to be ready to take the exam within those next 8 days. So that's really, really important part of it. When you are taking the exam, it is in a digital format. You will need to be on a device with a webcam, and it will be approximately 35 multiple choice style questions. Sometimes it's like a drag and a drop or a match this to that, things like that. We do have some sample exam questions linked right here that you can go to and check out, as well as an additional resource for you. The exam is 3 hours. We really, really recommend that you kind of try to set that time aside really in a place where you will not be interrupted, because it's not an exam that you can pause. It's something that once the clock starts, the clock keeps going. You can't start and stop, you can't pause, you can't come back to it. It's something that you have to complete within that 3 hours. And so I just really would encourage you, when you're planning to take this, make sure you have some uninterrupted time. We also just want to make sure that you know that when you're working through the exam, we do recommend that you give each question your best attempt, but there is a review later button that you can mark on a question, so that way you can move forward to move through the exam, and then come back at the end if there's time to those ones that you have marked. But no matter what, at the end of 3 hours, it will close the exam and process it. So that's why we encourage you to make your best attempt, but then to keep moving forward. Don't get stuck on one question for 30 minutes. So we really would encourage you to spend, not 30 seconds, but also not 30 minutes, somewhere in between, depending on the question. Some go faster than others, but don't spend too much time. Give it your best answer and then move on to the next one. And it is totally okay to have a second device with you. And if you work with us today, ask us great questions, go through all the resources, you will be prepared, and you will do well. And the exam, 3 hours sounds like a long time, but once you get into it, I feel like it flies by. And I love it. I probably take the level 1 and level 2 exam probably anywhere from 3 to 6 times throughout the year. So I definitely have experience taking it, just so I can keep up to date and refresh with it. And it's awesome. And I love all things around level 1 and 2. So I will do my best to share all of that with you. Again, it's that 35 multiple choice or matching questions. The exam has recently has changed. It used to be kind of like part 1, part 2, but now it is just all that first part 1, and they have just kind of built it all into that multiple choice or matching drag and drop type of questions. And we will be going through specific tools, but here's some examples and some things that you can see that may come up on the exam, where it's like choose the best tool, or matching a tool to what you would use it for. Those are just some examples that you may see throughout the exam as well. And other kind of potential topics besides just the tools we're going to be talking about that you may see on our level 1 is the copyright and fair use, digital citizenship, and professional learning network. So we have just a little bit of information about it right here for you to check out, and just kind of be aware of that and review that before you take your exam. So now we're going to dive into our core tools, and this is where I'm going to really ask and kind of ask for your help inside of our chat, and I will be kind of, sharing the screen and moving through things with all of you. So this first one that we'll see here is Google Drive. So you'll see that we have kind of like a list here for you of scenarios or questions that may ask you to do any of those following items, from creating folders and subfolders to changing the color, creating docs, uploading items, sharing folders, links, things like that. And so really just want you to take a moment and kind of think to yourself, when I look at these, how do I feel about doing this inside of Google Drive? On a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being I am very, very new to Google Drive, and 5 meaning I am a pro. I can do all of these and more inside of Google Drive. So if you could do me a favor and head on over to the chat and share with me what is for where you are, 1 to 5 on Google Drive. All right, so I'm going to pause my sharing for just a moment to head on over to the chat. Okay, so I'm seeing a really nice mix over here, definitely a range. That is awesome. Thank you all so much for sharing that. So we're just going to do a little quick review of Drive for those of us who are on the new side. And then we are going to then just kind of chug on forward and move into our next tool. So let's just dive forward. I'm going to open up my Google Drive and kind of walk through some of these important items with you along the way. So when you're in your Google Drive, so this is my Google Drive, and remember, you can get there through your Waffle. You can go to drive.google.com. Those are some great ways just to quickly access your Drive if you want to go in there and try some things with me. So you can be very familiar with this new button, because this new button is where you can make folders, you can upload items, and or create from your Google tools. But specifically, I want to do a quick folder review. When you make a new folder, you simply just select that and you give it a title. And then you'll see that your folder will appear. I am already inside a folder. You can see right here, kind of, I'm from my Drive, I went into this folder, this one, and this one. My name's Katie. I love organization and folders, so I often have many folders inside of folders, and we call those subfolders. So that is also something you may see referenced on the exam as well. And so anytime you're inside of a folder, if you click that new and folder, you're going to create a subfolder inside of another folder. So that is a really quick and easy way to make them. If you open up that folder, then you can see that I have nothing in it. It's a brand new folder, and I could easily build my content, open up a Google Doc, and because I'm doing it from this folder, it will very quickly and easily create that document straight inside of this folder. I could also take something that I have in another folder and just drag it right in there, and then it would live inside of that folder. So lots of really great options when we're talking about creating folders. You can also right-click on your folders and see lots of options, from getting the sharing link or sharing it directly with someone. You can also add it to your starred folder area, which is this area in your Drive. So if I were to go over to that area now, you see there is my sample folder. So that is a really nice way to put that in a specialized place, which would be quick and easy for access. You can change the color of your folder. You are limited to only these color options. So if you're like me and a bit of a folderaholic, you might run out of colors, but it's still fun to coordinate and have those different colors again right there for you. So definitely check those out. And if you kind of hover over them, you can see that they have really fun names. I do enjoy that as well. You also have the ability to delete the folder if you need to, download the folder. And then again, your sharing options are right here, which would pop open your sharing window. And you can directly share it to someone right here, or you can come down here and you can change this to anyone with the link and adjust your settings with these drop downs as needed to whichever you are trying to do. And then simply copy your link and share that link if you need to as well. Do note that now that I've turned on that sharing link, there's a little person inside of my folder. And that indicates that I have either turned on the sharing link or shared it with at least one other person. So that's something to also keep in mind when you're looking at your folders. If you do not see that little person, that means only you have access to it, right? If you do see that little person inside of your folder, then that means that you have either turned on that link or you have shared it directly with at least one other person. So that's just our quick walkthrough and reminder about sharing, about creating folders, things like that. The only thing that I didn't really talk about is I talked about deleting, and whether it's a folder or an item, you can also, click on an item and remove that as well. If you have an item or a folder selected, you'll notice your toolbar also appears up here as well. So those are also really helpful, but you can find those same tools in that right click as well. And when you delete something, it does go to your trash can. And when you go to your trash can, there is the option to delete your items forever by simply just clicking the empty trash. But do note that in most cases, it's 30 days. Sometimes that can be a little bit different, but you can always go in there and permanently delete that right there. So I know that was quick, but remember this is being recorded, so you can always come back and review that. So now we're going to kind of dive a little bit more into Google Docs. And so again, take a moment, look at this screen right here and look at these different items from just level 1 for Google Docs, and give me on a scale from 1 to 5 how you're feeling about these items you see right here. 1 being I'm really new, 5 being I'm a Google Doc expert with all of these items. So I'll give you a moment to kind of share that in our chat. All right, let's see how we're doing. We have a nice mix here again. Okay, wonderful. Awesome. Wonderful. Excellent. And please remember, if you have questions, yes, I will work on making my screen a little bit bigger. Absolutely. I will zoom on in for you. I can definitely do that. All right, so I'm seeing a lot of people feeling, there's a range, but there's a lot of people feeling, pretty comfortable. So we are going to, again, do a little bit of a review, talk about this, and then kind of move on forward. And we may do kind of a lot of that for level 1 and then maybe spend more time diving into level 2. That's fine too. I just know that we're going to kind of ebb and flow a little bit, but there will be some tools that I definitely dive into and do some really a little bit more in-depth review with you along the way.
Hey, Katie,
all right, so yes.
Can we just take like 5 seconds? There's a question in the chat that it will take like a long paragraph to explain, and if we do it verbally, I think it will be easier. We have a question about people clicking on the workbook link and then it opens up, but it opens up as a template, right? So it's a model that you can use. So when you do open it like that, if you look in the top right corner, it says use template. So when you see it like that, you don't have the toolbar at the top. It's only a template. But if you click on that blue button, it will download, it'll make a copy for you. And then you'll be able to go in and navigate and enter your notes and write down things and move stuff around. So that's really important. Click on that blue button in the top right corner and make your own copy of that template. I hope this helps.
It's me. I clicked on the template and it opened up, and I have no toolbar to now download the file. I have nothing but the template in front of me. I have no toolbar to do anything after clicking on the template button.
So you may have accidentally like collapsed your toolbar up. Do you see a little caret over on the right-hand side that you could kind of drop it back down with?
No.
You can
it
try
also-
pressing F11.
F11 just makes my screen bigger. So yeah, it doesn't help. F11, I've done that.
Okay. I don't know.
It could also be the device you're on, depending on what type of device you're using and how it opened. Sometimes it may have opened into, if you're on a device that is maybe not a traditional computer, sometimes it then will open inside of the app. And sometimes that can cause your toolbar to look differently if you're now inside of, for example, the Google Slides app. That could also be part of it. So maybe try to ensure that you're in your web browser. And what you can do is we'll drop the link to this one more time in the chat, and maybe try again. See if you can go back to your browser and try one more time to see if that helps.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course, of course. All right. So Google Docs, there's, you know, a comprehensive kind of list here of everything. And I'm going to just do, again, a quick walkthrough to make sure that we all feel okay with just some of these basics. When we get into level 2, I will be definitely circling back around to Google Docs and sharing some more information with you along the way. So the first thing is I'm going to create a new Google Doc. Again, coming back to my drive, and remember, whether you're in your My Drive or inside of a folder like I am, you can click on that new and click on Google Docs, and it will make you a brand new Google Doc, and it will locate that Google document inside of whatever folder you are in. If you're on that top level My Drive area, then it's going to drop it into that My Drive. So now I have made my blank Google Doc here, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit to make it a little bit bigger for you. So hopefully that's more helpful. And so it's Google Docs, excuse me, is a word processing tool. So you have all of your normal word processing tools across the top. And then you have some nice drop downs here as well. But you can simply just start typing your text right inside of your Google document. I do recommend always giving it a title, because otherwise you're going to have a lot of untitled items in your drive. So I'm just going to give this a title, and then it will now remember that, and you can always click up there to adjust it at any time. Once you've added your text, you can simply select your text and make any changes that you would like. I could change the font. I can change the size. And I love that we have this plus and minus, so you can literally go up and down by 1 to get really exact with your text size. You have all of your options right here, including changing the color and or highlighting if you would like to. You also have the ability to make a word or a set of words or a paragraph a clickable link, which is great. You can copy and paste that in there, or if you know it, you can type it in and then you click apply. And so whenever anybody now clicks on that, they see that option to go ahead and go to that resource that you have linked right there. You can also change your justification, your line spacing. You can add bullets and numbering. So lots of really great options here. You also have the ability inside of a Google Doc, and it can be, again, a word or a sentence or a paragraph, anything that you select. You also have the ability to add comments. You can do that in 3 different ways, because we like to make sure that you have many options of how you utilize the tools here. You can add a comment with this little comment bubble. You can also see that our comment bubble appears over here on the right-hand side, or you can simply go to that insert page and insert a comment. When you do this, it allows you to be able to leave exactly what it sounds like, a direct comment inside of the document. So it can be feedback. It can, be suggestions. It really can be used in any way that you that will work best for you. And it's great. You type it in, you click comment, and then it lives right there. Whoever's collaborating with you can reply if needed, or if you click that green little check mark, what that means is that the item has then been resolved, and it doesn't delete it, but you can see now it's hidden. It kind of disappeared and it lives up here in this comment history. So comments are a great way to be able to interact with with someone that is on a document, or someone working on a document with you, or a group of people. So it's a really great way to be able to do that. And so that's some of our just overall reminders about font and line spacing, commenting. Oh, I did forget to mention, so I'm going to kind of bounce back with you. When you are doing a comment, not only can you, type in there, you can also tag someone. So if you do, you can tag them. So I could tag Michelle right here, and make sure that she kind of is aware, like, hey, I'm leaving this comment for you. And Michelle then would get an email. So now I'm going to add this comment right here. And because I have not shared this with Michelle, that's also another thing that comes up, is it's like, hey, do you want to share this? And so I'm going to go ahead and give her that access. And then Michelle now has received an email that I have not only shared this with her, but then there is a comment that is for her right inside of this document. So it's a really great way to also draw their attention, because maybe this is a project and you happen to be working on it, but you're not with Michelle, right? But you want to be like, hey, Michelle, I did this work, or I'm giving you this feedback. And then I could go ahead and tag her, and then she'll get an email and know to come in there and join. So really a helpful thing to do along the way. And then you have lots of other amazing tools inside of your document up here as well. We don't have time to go through all of them, but I do want to spend a moment talking about sharing again. We do have our wonderful big share button up here. As you can see, now this is shared with Michelle, and I can always adjust her sharing as needed. Things like that. You can type in a direct email address and or get that link, just like we talked about inside of your drive as well. That is the great thing, is that sharing across your drive and the tools with inside of drive are all very similar, and makes it very, very helpful, because it's nice and consistent for you. So that is kind of our quick dive into Google Docs. And like I said, we'll be coming back to it when we get to level 2. But I wanted just to give a quick overview before we move on to our next tool. So moving forward, we have Google Sheets. And I want to definitely do a dive into Google Sheets. I have a sample sheet that I'm going to be opening in just a moment. And then we are going to be walking through these items that you see right here, because I think that there's some things that are really helpful, things that I want to make sure you feel comfortable with. So we're going to I'm going to do kind of a bigger, longer demo into that for you. So bear with me as I'm going to go over to my drive, and I'm going to open up my sample data for you. And then I'm going to walk you through these bullets, because I think it's helpful. And please know that I may go a little bit quickly, but you can always come back and watch this at any time that you need. So in my sample data right here, you can see that I just have some names and some basic information, and then also some data on each of these, we'll just say example students. So inside of a Google Sheet, right? You remember to create a new Google Sheet. Again, you can do it from your drive, select Google Sheet right there, and then it would create a nice blank one for you. But I find for our lesson today, it's helpful if I have some sample data. So that's why I already had one all made up for us. So when you're looking at data, sometimes your data can extend beyond your screen, and then you do this wonderful scrolling option. But if you're like me, I'm like, oh no, what are my headers? So I like to make sure that this top row gets frozen. So how you freeze rows or columns. So I want to freeze this row right here. So I'm going to go over to that number 1 and click on it. You can now see that I have selected this entire row, right? And then I'm going to come up to the word view, and then I'm going to go over to freeze, and I want to freeze that entire 1 row that I have selected. Now I have clicked that, and you can see that I have this nice thick gray line right there. And if I scroll, my header stays put. So that freezing of a row or a column would be the same way. You could click on the column, come up to view, and then you could freeze the column. Same exact thing. That is a really helpful thing when you are interpreting and going through data. So definitely you select the row or the column, come up to view, and then you can do that. So just keep that in mind, really helpful, and you may see questions about that on the exam. We also, you also may see things about taking information and using formulas. So you can see right here, I have 4 quizzes listed, and maybe I want to get their average for all of their quizzes. So I could give it a title, and then I want to use a formula to calculate this so I don't have to do that myself. I want my first average to be in this cell right here. So if I come up to my functions option, which again is this nice little symbol up here, I can click this little baby caret drop down and see that I have some nice options just built right in there. And what is great about this is you can simply, if I want the average, I simply select that and it pops that in there for me automatically. I don't have to know it off the top of my head and type it in. If you do, you can, absolutely. But I often don't have those memorized, so I love this functions area. So now that I have that in there, I'm going to select the cells that I want it to pull the average from. So I'm going to select my first one, and then hold down my shift key and grab the rest of the cells. And so for this student, I want to grab quizzes 1 through 4 and find the average. You can see that I now have that selected. It's added into my function. So I'm going to click return or enter, and then it processes that for me and tells me that the average is 8. Another amazing thing you can already see that's popped up here, and it's like, hey, we see you're doing it for 1, and do you want it for all of them? And look, you can kind of see in gray that it's already done that for all of them following the same guidelines. So for this row, it's taking the average again of quiz 1 through 4, but for this entire row. So if you want to do that and you're going to be doing the same all the way down, it's really great because you can click this check mark and look, bam, it's already done for you. And when you click on it, so if I go all the way down here, I can come up to my function up here and see this is the average for this row, F12 through I12, right? So it's a really great way, super smart, really intuitive. So again, creating those basic functions and then having them autofill is a really great way, and it's also a really big time saver. So definitely practice that, check that out if you've never done that before as well. You'll also notice in Google Sheets, you have this tab at the bottom that is, I named this tab sample data because it is my sample data right here, but I can click this little drop down. I can rename it if I need to. I can add a fun little color to it if I need to. But what this does show us is that we can have multiple sheets inside of one Google Sheet. To add a sheet, I can simply click this plus button and it will give me just a blank sheet. So then I can toggle between my data as needed. I could also use this little drop down if I wanted to duplicate and then maybe use some of this sample data, but then adjust it and do it in a different way. I could do that and then again make adjustments. So this will allow you then to be able to toggle between your information as needed. So that again is right across the bottom of your sheets. We also have the ability to make some basic charts. So if now that I found my average, I want to take this and make a chart from my averages, I could select this entire column And then I could come up here, and again, I have my different tools, but if I find my chart tool, and you can also, again, find these items from inside of your insert drop down as well, right here, and then your functions also right there as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click Insert Chart, and what it does is the data that I had highlighted in that column, it made this beautiful little chart for me and popped open my chart editor. I can make any changes I want, but we're going to keep it simple today and leave it as it's pre-set up. But again, note you can adjust and customize as needed. If you're like me, this just stacks it on top of the data, and that to me is a bit confusing. I like to click on the 3 dots, and I like to move my chart to its own sheet right there. So then you'll see there's my chart. It's right here, and I still have all of my tools, and then I could even edit my chart if needed to be. And then I could still go back to my data now and not have a chart stacked on top of it. So that is my little tip or trick as well. And again, remember that's in that 3 dot area. So I know that was, again, fast. Remember, this is being recorded, but I just wanted to give you a nice overview into the basics for Google Sheets. And then we'll be diving into some more data with our Google Sheets coming up inside of level 2. So now let's move on to our next tool, Google Slides. So if you can do me a favor and look through these options that we have listed for Google Slides and rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5 on how you feel about Google Slides. So go ahead and share that with me in the chat on a scale of 1 to 5. All right, so let's come over here and check in. All right, so Google Slides, definitely a lot more beginners, which is fine. A few advanced, which is awesome. All right, excellent. Thank you all so much for sharing that. You guys are amazing. So we are going to do a little quick overview. Do know that some of these tools right at the beginning, I'm spending a little bit more time, but we're going to pick up our pace coming up in a couple of tools as well, just so you're all aware. But don't forget, we will be sending more resources after today as well. So Google Slides, again, it's an amazing presentation tool. I'm going to go to my drive, I'm going to click new, and then I can make a blank Google Slides presentation right here. It's an amazing, amazing presentation tool. It allows you a lot of great customizations and a lot of great options. So I've created my new blank one. Again, I really recommend giving it a name so you don't have lots of untitled things inside of your Google Drive. And we're just going to quickly walk through some options. You saw that our theme pops out, and you can change your theme. You can change your background and your layout options. You can also just simply come over here to add new slides or choose the layout. When you're adding your new slide, if I wanted a blank one, I could drop that in right there as well. I can use my tools here to add content, from adding text boxes to inserting images from any of these amazing options of uploading, searching the web, pulling from your drive. All of these are great options. And it's simply as simple as grabbing your option. So if I search for a flower and I want to insert this flower, I'm going to simply select it and insert it. And it will then drop that image, whether you pull it from a search or from your drive or uploading, it adds that to your slide. You can select it, change its size. When you do have an option selected, pay attention to your toolbar that appears. These are all ways to customize the item that you have selected. You can also insert shapes, select the shape you want and draw that shape straight onto your screen. And then again, customize using your tools up here. The key thing I like to bring up about shapes is if you double click inside of a shape, you can always type text into that shape. So no longer do you need to drop a shape and then a text box on top of a shape. It just allows you to add that text straight inside of that shape. You also have the ability to insert lines. You can select your line and then you simply draw it on to your page. If you're like me and you have a hard time drawing a straight line, as you can see right there, that's not very straight. My tip for you is select your line tool, but before you click and drag, hold down the shift key, and then it will give you a nice straight line. So that's my quick tip for you along the way. So those are some just really quick drop-ins and options. Also, make sure that you're aware of your insert options. We've talked about images, text boxes. You can add audio or video. And again, when you select your video, you can search YouTube, copy and paste a YouTube link in, or pull from your Google Drive, find your video, and then select it, and it will drop it straight into your presentation. When you add a video, you're going to notice that it does pop open your format options. So you can choose, how does your video play? Do you want to adjust the timing? Maybe you don't want the entire video, and or mute the audio. So lots of great options right there. If you're using a timer, it's a great way to kind of make it small in the corner, and it can run while they still see the rest of the information. And then notice when I click away, those options disappear. So those are some quick review and options with adding video and text boxes and things along the way. The final quick overview again is, don't forget, we have our share button. And that share button is the same as inside of Google Docs in our Drive, where you can share directly with one person and or grabbing that link. So those are some great ways to be able to quickly and easily create and share inside of Google Slides. I love Google Slides. The one thing that's not on there that I do want to show you, because I think every educator needs to know this about Google Slides, is if you go to File and you go all the way to the bottom and click on Page Setup. This is where you can customize the page size. You can click right here in this custom option and make this any page size you want. If I was making maybe a digital notebook and I wanted to do, we use a traditional 8.5 by 11 here, I could change that and adjust it to any option I want and click apply. And you're now going to see that it's automatically adjusted the sizes of my slides. So again, File, Page Setup, and then use the drop down to go to custom. And it really allows you that ability to change and adjust that. If you do, just make sure you do it first, because as you can see, it readjusted my slide after items were already added. So that is our quick level 1 overview for Google Slides. So we're going to just keep on chugging forward. Please let me know if there's questions in the chat and I need to show anything, and let us know if you need anything along the way. Moving into a couple of bonus tools, Google Drawing and Google Keep. If there's time at the end, I may come back and dive into these, but again, we'll be sharing some resources after today. But Google Drawings is very similar to Google Slides. The biggest difference is that it is only one page, whereas Google Slides can be multiple pages. So definitely check out that tool, but very similar to Google Slides that we just reviewed together. And then Google Keep is a way, it's a way for you to kind of keep notes. I love a good Post-it note, and sometimes I have Post-its all over my desk. And so Google Keep is a way to digitize those and have when you open up the page, you can see all of your notes and they look like little Post-its. And so it's a really fun tool. So if you've never checked those out, I definitely would recommend going in and kind of checking those out along the way. All right, next up is Google Forms. So Google Forms in the chat, please let me know how you feel about Google Forms on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being beginner, 5 being an expert. Let me know how you feel about Google Forms. All right, so let's come over to the chat and see how we're doing. Okay, wonderful. Awesome. Okay, we're definitely on that beginner side. Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. We are going to dive in and we are going to go create a Google form together. So again, you're going to see that I feel like this is a little bit on repeat, but I'm going back to my Google Drive. You can see the new items that we're creating is going straight into my folder here. I'm going to click New, and I'm going to now click Google Forms. Okay, and so we are now making a form. So forms is exactly what it sounds like. You are making a form to collect feedback, to use maybe as an assessment tool, to just gather information. That really is what forms helps us do, is it just is a way for us to gather information together. So forms has a lot of options. And so I am going to do my best to give you a nice basic overview of this tool. We created it. And now the first thing we should always do is give it a title. Okay, once you give it a title up here, if you go to the far corner and click one more time, it'll bring that title over there for you. This top area is where you give your title, you can give your overall form description, and then you can just start building your questions below. It'll give you one question and you simply just click on it and then you can start your editing. So you can type it in. Google Forms will do its best. It's going to say, hey, you know, we look at this question and we think, oh, you want a short answer question. So it'll automatically adjust, but you can always change this if you don't want it to be the option that it chooses for you. Short answer and paragraph are exactly what they sound like. It's a way for you to type in a question and then the person filling out the form is going to just type in their answer. So the build to that question is very quick and very easy. Then you have questions like multiple choice, checkbox, and drop down. These all set up the same way. You type in your question and then you build in your answer. So you can just add in your options here and build them as many as you would like. You can also change the order, remove, or continue adding as needed. So those three build the same. And then you have your more advanced ones about building scales and grid options. So there are lots of question types, but do know that when you create questions, it does try to predict that for you, but you can always override that. You'll also notice inside of your question, you have some floating tools down here. You can duplicate questions very quickly. You can also delete them. You have this toggle where it's required, meaning the person filling out the form cannot submit the form until they've answered the question. So I highly recommend toggling that on. Otherwise, people may skip over a question. And you have some advanced features in your three dots here based on the type of question you're asking. And then you have this nice little floating toolbar. This will allow you to add more questions, add some customized titles or descriptions, images, videos. So lots of really great options. So you can build your form and have your questions built there. You also then, once you have made your form and you start sending it out, you have this response tab where people will come in and you'll see their responses. It'll build it automatically here for you. Works really, really well. And then you also have your settings tab. This is where you can choose what do you want your settings to be. You can, if there's a toggle, turn it on or off, or the little drop down will show you. So if you wanted to automatically collect email addresses, you can absolutely have it do that. Please note, if this is toggled on, then they will have to have a Google email address. So keep that in mind. But you can simply toggle any of these on or off as needed. And you can just move your way through all of your options here and edit them. When they are done filling out the form, you'll see that you can have a custom message. Instead of it saying your response has been recorded, you could say, and you can customize it, right? And then save that, and then that is what they will see. What I also love about this is you can also then give them information or directions of what's next, or you can say, like, if you need help, please email this person or go to this link. So you can really drop some really helpful information into that confirmation message if you need to. So again, all of your setting options right here, and you can adjust them as needed.
Hey, Katie, we have two questions in the chat, if we can take just a few moments. The first one, Catherine would like to know, can you please show the difference between a multiple choice grid and checkbox grid? So that is the first one.
Absolutely. So if I add a question here and I do a multiple choice grid, so maybe I'm doing something like true or false, right? And so I can say, I can have my questions on my rows and then my columns can be true or false. So I will build this, and I was going to go here next. So this is a good segue. If you come up to our little top bar up here and see this little icon right here, if you click on it, it's our preview icon, and it allows you to preview your form before you send it out. So you can see right here, this is a multiple choice grid. So then they can choose either or, right? It's choosing which one they want. But if I go back to editing and say I duplicate this now and change it to a checkbox grid, it changes it to checkbox. But let me go back to preview to show you the difference. So multiple choice, you can only choose one per row, whereas in the checkbox, you could choose multiples. So if you had multiple options than just true and false, they could choose one or multiple or all of them. So that is your basic difference between multiple choice grid and checkbox grid. So hopefully that answers that question for you. So great question.
It's very clear. Thank you. We also have a question from Sean, who would like to know that if this can be used for peer assessment, and he would like to know, can students access from a post on Google Classroom? So I guess this would be in the share settings and how to send out.
Absolutely. Yep. So yes, this is a great tool to use for that. And what you would do is after you've created the form, you'll come up to your send button here and you can email out your form. You can also take the link and you can shorten it here and share the link to your students. Or my personal favorite, if you're a Google Classroom user, you can put this link inside of Google Classroom and then students can access it right there by clicking on it. And when we dive into Google Classroom, I'll kind of walk you through that a little bit more. But those are some really quick and easy ways to be able to share this out. And then you'll see the responses building right here in your response tab. Or you can also have it go to a spreadsheet by clicking on your spreadsheet icon. And then it will allow you to create that fresh spreadsheet and bring in all of your answers straight here inside of a spreadsheet if that's easier to see than inside of the response tab. Great questions. Any other questions?
There is one question about Google Keep being phased out eventually. So I don't have a lot of information about that. I've heard the rumors, but it's still around. So I don't know if you have any additional info.
I do not either. Same thing. Nothing's official. But we like to just mention it so you're aware of it if you do see a question on the exam.
Thank you.
Of course. Awesome. All right, so we've kind of gone over the basics. There's a couple of other areas. We talked about our preview. You have this cute little palette icon to change the look and the theme if you'd like to. You always have your undo and redo, and then we talked about our send button. So the last area I want to talk about is these 3 dots where you can copy your form, delete it if you need to, print it, and the big one right here is adding collaborators. So this is where you would go if you want someone to edit the form with you. So if I wanted to, again, I could type in an email address and send it so that whoever I'm adding as a collaborator, they're going to be coming and see the screen just like you see here where they can edit the form. Whereas the send button is what you use when you want someone to fill out your form. So that's the biggest difference inside of Google Forms is the send button is to fill out the form, whereas the 3 dots and add collaborators is how you add someone to build the form with you. So I do like to mention that along the way. So that was our very quick overview of Google Forms. But remember, you can come back and check out that the video playback later if needed. So thank you so much for your great questions.
Good. We have another question, if you don't mind. The autocorrect feature. So that's transforming the form into a quiz. Are we going to see this in the level 2 or?
If we have time, we will dive into it. But we can also make sure that we include some resources about that if we don't get to it. And I will make sure to note that before we send out our resources for you.
Thank you.
Of course. All right. So let's just keep on moving forward because we have so many amazing tools to keep talking about. I really know that this is fast-paced, but I appreciate all of your amazing questions and kind of hanging out with me and just, sharing with us along the way. So next up is Google Classroom. I would love to know how you're feeling about Google Classroom on a scale of 1 to 5. So head on over to the chat and let me know how you feel. And this is really just the basics. Do you feel comfortable creating a class, adding students, making basic posts into a class, and pulling items from your drive into a classroom? That's really where our focus is right now. So let us know how you feel about that. All right, so I see more people seem to be comfortable with those basics. Awesome. Google Classroom is an amazing tool. I definitely recommend checking it out if you haven't before, but we will make sure to send over resources if needed kind of after. We're just going to kind of keep on moving forward to keep us going, since I see most of us seem to be fairly familiar with at least those basics. All right, so moving forward, Gmail and calendar. So in level 1, Gmail and calendar are really about, for Gmail, it's, sending an email, using that search bar to find things, and then or that organization piece of Gmail. So we'll definitely send out some resources if need be, but that's those are the items. In terms of calendar, it's creating events and adding items into those events. And so I am going to just have this up here and know when we get into level 2. Definitely I'll take some questions, but I want to wait on these two tools till we get into level 2, which is coming up very shortly. So that way we can just answer them all at once. But do know I will be happy to answer any of these once we kind of move on forward. Other exam components would be Google Chrome. Google Chrome is a web browser tool that you may or may not be using at this moment. And for the exam, I do recommend utilizing Chrome and being familiar with Chrome, searching within the address bar in Chrome. They call that the Omnibox. And then understanding that it does so much more than just an address bar, right? You can use that same area and you can use special features such as typing in an equation and it will give you an answer. Typing in, asking for the weather from a certain location, asking for conversion of measurements, things like that. And if you've never done that in the Omnibox, check it out, try it out. It really does amazing, amazing things. Also, we will send some resources about making bookmarks and things like that along the way as well. Google Sites is another amazing tool that we are going to dive in when we get to level 2, because again, I'm just going to package that all together for us. So just like I said for Gmail and calendar, if you have questions about sites, I'm going to do a demonstration for you coming up when we move into level 2, and I'll walk you kind of through it from creation into adding content. So do bear with me as we will be addressing that coming up in our next section as well. Google Groups, again, is a tool that you may or may not have experience with. It really depends on how your school board has set up your Google domain. Some people have access to it, some people don't. But basically, it's a tool that allows to create groups into different options and access or get information out to groups quickly and easily. If you go into your work email and maybe you start typing something and you see options that pop up more than just names, and it's like it means like a group of people, the tool that's used to make that happen is Google Groups. So that's just your quick overview into that one. And if we have time at the end, I can do a quick demo, but for time's sake, we're just going to keep on moving forward. I know I apologize, but I just want to make sure I'm hitting some and having enough time for level 2, which will be coming up in just a moment. And then YouTube is also listed here as well. And we'll be again kind of revisiting that in level 2. So we're just going to keep moving forward so we can get onto that level 2 content And then the last thing in our level 1 notebook is Google Meet, which is the tool that we are in right now together. So hopefully we are familiar with the basics of where, to find the chat and where to change your background, and sharing your screen. And so that is the tool that we're in right now. So if you have questions, you can definitely let us know, but definitely check out those options. It also, I would recommend after today to maybe create a meet and have a colleague or someone join with you, so that you can be on that host side of it and see all of the buttons that you may not be seeing here today or may not look the same. So if you've never done a meet where you are the one that starts it, definitely try that on your own after today as well. So I know that was super fast kind of way to wrap up level 1, but let's move into level 2 so we have plenty of time to cover those tools. But before we do, are there any other questions in the chat?
It looks good for now. So
All right,
I will
awesome.
share immediately the level 2 workbooks. So the English version and the French version. Oops, sorry. It's the wrong French link. Let me just fix that.
All right, so again, just like with our level 1 guides, when you go to it, whether it's English or French, it's going to take you to the same page right here, and you're going to go ahead and click that blue button that says Use Template. It'll just take a moment. And then it makes your own copy for yourself. And again, remember, you can add any notes that are helpful to you as well. So we're just going to dive in, and we're going to be focusing on our tools. And kind of remember, level 2 is kind of like a build on from level 1. So we're taking a lot of those foundational skills and then taking them to the next level. And as we move through our tools, hopefully I'll be able to highlight all of that for you along the way. Inside of your workbook, you're going to see all of our same exam tips, which we already talked about. So we're just going to kind of move through those quickly. And we are going to just dive straight into our first set of tools. So I did briefly mention Chrome at the end of level 1. And then Chrome comes back again in level 2. And again, remember, Chrome is our web browser. And whenever you click on that plus button, it pops it open up here. Let me zoom in. I know this is probably teeny to make it a little bit bigger. So you can simply come up to this top bar and your Omnibox, and you can see some of my recent searches, but you can do adjustments, or you can say weather. Oops, it might help if I weather in Los Angeles. And then it's going to give me that information. I could come up here and I could say 457 times 765. And then it's going to give me that calculation. So lots of really great options there for you straight from your Omnibox. Also notice in your searching area, you have some tools, you have more options here. So definitely check out those options, try them out. Lots of great features right there for you. And the one other thing that I do want to talk about is the Chrome Web Store. So to get to the Chrome Web Store, I normally just open up a new tab and type in Chrome Web Store, and it's going to be that first option right there for you. So the Chrome Web Store is where you can go get extensions and or themes for your web browser. So extensions are tools that enhance the use of your Chrome browser. So they're things that generally make your life easier or do something more quickly for you. Themes are a way for you to customize your browser. So you can pick a theme and have fun pictures, or just do a color, and you simply just click on it, add to Chrome, and then it adjusts your whole browser for you. You can always remove that or undo it if that's not what you wanted to do. Extensions, again, are those tools. So you can see some recommended ones down here for me, or I can do a search. So maybe I'm looking for Google Translate extension. I can see it right here. If I click on it, it will take me into the information about it, including giving me an overview. And I can also read reviews on it if I'd like to. And I already have this added to my Chrome, so that's why it says remove to Chrome. If I didn't have it, it would show a button that says add to Chrome. And all you do is simply click add to Chrome, and then it will bring it into your Chrome browser. Across up here, and I know they're super teeny and tiny, and I apologize, but at the top of your browser, you may see some tools, or what you may see is a little puzzle piece. So that puzzle piece is where all of your extensions live. And if you want them to appear in your bar, you simply just have to pin them up there, and then those extensions appear there. Or they'll just live in this list, and you can click on them and use them at any time. So for example, this is my Google Translate extension that I can click on, and then it pops open that tool, and I can have it translate something for me, or I can have it translate the entire page and click on that option. So that's just one example. I have lots of extensions. I love a good extension for taking screenshots, for creating shortened links. And so if you love extensions and have some great ones, feel free to drop those in the chat and share that with us. But that is where you go to find extensions and add them. And if you want to remove extensions or disable them, the easiest thing to do is click on your 3 dots, hover over more tools, and go into your extension page. And then you can toggle them on or off, or remove them from your settings inside of Chrome. So that is a very quick view into the web store, extensions, and all of that those fun items. Next tool is Google Forms. And we made a basic form, but we are going to take a few minutes, and I'm going to do a quick demo into taking a form and making it into a quiz, and a couple of those different options we see listed right here as well. So I'm going to go back to my drive, and I'm going to find my beautiful untitled form. If I want to make that a quiz, the first thing I'm going to do is go over to my settings tab and toggle on that make it a quiz. When I do that, you're going to see you have some new options that appear. You can choose, do you want the grades to go immediately or later? You can also choose what they see in their feedback, and the default question point value. So if you wanted it to be more than 1, you could adjust that right there. You'll notice once you turn that on, you immediately have this new area pop up, and then you're going to come over to your questions. And then you're going to click on your question and see, hey, now look, we have a point assigned to it, and we have an answer key, right? Once I build my question, I then have to go to my answer key and select what is the right answer. So in this case, I can select that sandwich would be the correct answer. So when they selected that, they would get the point, it would be right. If they selected apple, then it would be wrong. I do want to point out that you can have multiple selects. So if you're putting out a question and maybe you'll accept either or answer, you can mark them both correct. So no matter which one they choose, it would be correct, or maybe 2 of the 3 are correct type of thing. So you can do that as well. You also have the ability to add answer feedback. And I love this feature, because you can give different feedback for whether it's incorrect or correct. And you can type it in saying, please watch this video to review, right? And then you could add a video, right? Because maybe it's incorrect and you want them to do a little bit review. Or if they get it correct, you can say, great work. So you can give customized feedback depending on whether they give right or wrong answers. And then you can see those feedback options and then edit or delete them as needed. So that's really important when you're making this a quiz, that not only do you build your questions, but you also then adjust your answer keys. If you are adding questions that are short answer or paragraph, right? And I go over to my answer key, I can add correct answers and then mark all other answers incorrect. So if, I would take blue with all lowercase, blue with capitals, maybe specific different spellings of blue. I can have multiple options here. So anything that I listed would be correct. and then everything else could be incorrect. Or you can have possible options and do a manual review. So that's where it can get a little bit tricky sometimes. But you do also have your ability to add answer feedback. But note, we don't have incorrect answers here because it is that kind of open-ended question. So depending on your question type, sometimes your answer key can look a little bit different than more of a multiple choice or a checkbox clear, correct, or incorrect answers. So you'll do that for every single question. Make sure you have your question and your answer key built, and then your form will be ready to go. When you go into your preview mode, if you have it selected that they can see their points values, they're going to see that. And then as they fill it out and turn it in, based on, again, what you have set here in your settings is how they're going to see their grades, whether it be immediate or later. And if you do the later, it will have to collect email addresses, because what it will do is once you've graded it later and click release grades, then it will be emailed to them. So that part will have to be collected as well. So that is kind of that quick overview into not only forms, but again, turning on the quiz. And then the biggest thing to remember is to come in and work on that answer key. So you can turn on the quiz feature at any point. But know that if you've already built it and then you turn on the quiz feature, you will still have to come back to every question and adjust your answer key. So that's a really important piece to remember when you are looking at that.
So Katie, we have a question.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
Susan would like to know, Catherine would like to know how to change the settings to allow students to take the quiz only once, or give them permission to submit another time if necessary.
Absolutely. So if you want your students, whether it's a quiz or not, right, you can turn under responses in that settings tab, this limit to one response. When this is turned on, that means they can only turn it in a one time. So if this is turned on, then one time they're done, they cannot turn it back in because it collects their account information. If for some reason you have a student, and I'm just going to go ahead and fill this out really quick so I can have a response to kind of show you. So obviously this is a interestingly built form, but I'm going to submit this just so I can show you what it will look like on this end. So you can now see that I have a response. And with this toggled on, I can no longer fill this out again because I've already filled it out once. But when you go over here, say that you have this person who's filled it out and you go over to this individual area, you could print out this response if you wanted to and then delete it to have them fill it out again. Or you could go to your settings and turn off under responses again that limit. So those are some ways to kind of work around that. But also this kind of gives you an idea in your response. Once you have a response in there, you can look at the summary. And because this is a quiz, it gives me based on the points, right? And it gives me a lot of really helpful information as a summary view, or you can go question by question and or individual by individual. So lots of great ways to do that. And then also in this response area, you can turn your form on or off. So that's also helpful because maybe this was an assessment and once you're done, you want to toggle it off so students can't fill it out again or come to it late. You can always toggle it on or off whenever you need to as well. Great questions. Any other questions?
Amanda would like to know if there's a way to put a time limit on the form.
Unfortunately not. What you would then do is you would come into here when time is up and simply turn it off. I also do want to give a really amazing shout out that was mentioned earlier, that forms now when students are filling that out does an auto save. So if they are only partially through filling this form out and they haven't submitted it, it will automatically save that and then they can come back to it later and they can even close the whole tab. Then come, say you posted the link in Google Classroom, they do work, they close the tab and they come back tomorrow and click on that same link, it will remember all of their work. And it is amazing. I absolutely love it. Was so grateful when that feature came out. Any other Google Forms questions?
There is
All
one. I'm
right.
trying to understand
Yes.
the implications. Felicia would like to know if if a form is added to Google Classroom, can a copy be given to each student? So usually, I would say
Oh, that's
we
a
send
great
out the
question.
link, but
Yep.
can we make a copy per student? So that could be useful sometimes.
That is a great, great question. So I have now popped over to Google Classroom. Okay, so this is a Google Classroom where I'm the teacher. And say I come over here to my classwork page and I'm creating a new assignment. So maybe this is an assessment form. Right, and I can, please complete the form. When you go inside of Google Classroom and you click on the drive icon, you're gonna find your form inside of your drive. Hopefully mine will pull up in just a minute because we were just working on it. And I can grab my form right here and click insert. You're going to notice that there is nothing that appears right here that says make a copy for each student, students can view only. It doesn't say any of that because Google Classroom knows that, hey, this is a form. You don't make copies for students. It's just like when you're in the form, you don't add your students as collaborators, you send them the form to fill it out. So Google Classroom treats it the same way. And so what Google Classroom does is you add it here and then you click assign and then it's just going to be the form. So here's my assessment that I just did. So if we view the assignment, so this is what the students see. They see their instructions and then it's just click on the form and it takes them to the live form to fill out. And oh, look, I've already filled this out once, which is why that's saying that. But it just puts it right in there for you. And what I really love from the teacher perspective is then it tracks who's done this. So really great, really, really helpful. And hopefully that answers your question with in terms of bringing it into Google Classroom. All right, any other questions before we move on to our next tool?
No, we're good to go. Oh, wait.
All right, everybody. Thank you for those great, great questions. And hopefully that was helpful. So next up is Gmail and Calendar. And I'm going to walk you through some of these, tying in things from level 1 as well, but I will be fast paced. So we have time to get into other tools still before we wrap up. So I'm going to start inside of my calendar here. I have nothing on this calendar right now for next week, but it's kind of a nice blank slate. Let me zoom in. This is probably super teeny on your screen. So let's make it bigger. There we go. So inside of Google Calendar, you can use your create button, or you simply can just go to a day and create an item. I love to click the more options to see all of my event options to add it in. I can customize days and times. I can add a link for a Google Meet meeting. So maybe the people I'm inviting, we're all going to meet virtually like we are today. I can add in multiple notifications if I would like to. I can also choose which calendar it goes to. And my favorite is I can add descriptions, or better yet, pull in attachments. So maybe this is a meeting with an agenda or like a Google Doc, or maybe this slide deck we're going to be referencing in our meeting. I can simply select that item from my drive and then it adds it automatically linked to the event so that anybody coming can have access to it and pull it up, which is super helpful. I can also add guests right here. So maybe I'm going to add Emily and I can add Michelle. And then when I'm ready, I'm going to simply click save, but I'm going to remove them so they don't get all these emails from me. I simply can click save and then my event is created. I can then click on that to see all of the items I have added to this and or edit or delete it as needed. Very quick and easy way to create events. To create a brand new calendar, because you see over here, I have multiple calendars. Over here under other calendars, if you click this plus button, you can create a whole brand new calendar. So maybe I wanted to make a new calendar and I'm just going to call it my work calendar. I would simply click create and then it's going to make that, and I can now click my little back arrow to go in here, and hopefully it'll just pop up in just a minute. Sometimes it takes a moment for it to appear. I'm going to refresh my screen to see if I can get, there we go. There's my work calendar that just appeared. So now I have another new calendar that I can create events for. So I could come on here and again, go into creating my event. And if I want it to live on that work calendar, I simply would click that drop down, select the calendar I want it to go to, follow all of my same steps, and then know that based on the calendar that I selected, it is now on that one, whereas the one that I created earlier was on this one. So you can have multiple calendars. You turn them on or off by simply just clicking on them, right? Selecting them, all of those options as well. So that's creating new calendars. Anytime you have a calendar as well, you can always click on the three dots and go into your settings and sharing and adjust them. Share them with specific people if you need to, giving them different permissions on how to access their calendar and what they can or can't do with your calendar. So the settings area is also a great way to be able to identify those items. I am on my personal Gmail account. So when I go to make something, you'll notice that I have these options right here. The appointment schedule is new to personal accounts. It has been in education for a while, but this, again, you'll see right here, because again, I'm on a personal account. But if I pause my sharing for a moment and open up my education account, so just give me one quick moment and I will do that and pop over to my calendar to kind of show you. So give me one quick moment. And go forward to maybe something that's not so busy. All right, so let me share my screen with all of you. Thank you for bearing with me while I pop over to another account to kind of show you what I'm talking about. So over here, this is my one of my education accounts. And I kind of move forward to have a blank calendar. But when I go to create an event here, you'll notice we have this wonderful thing called appointment slots. And appointment slots, it allows you, if you select it, or you can go into your more options, it allows you to open up parts into your calendar. So maybe I'm just going to call this like support sessions, right? You could also do like parent conferences or student conferences. And you could say, I want this on December 22nd from 4 to 5. I want 30-minute durations. Again, all of these can be adjusted and you can do this. So maybe I'm going to do this daily, right? Or I'm going to go into that custom and I'm going to say repeats one day and ends on, and we're just going to maybe go for that 1 week or those couple of days, right? And then click done. Right there, and then I'm going to click save, and then I'm going to see that it drops this onto my calendar for these 3 days. So now what I can do, right here, you have this wonderful link that says go to appointment page. And if I go forward to that time, because I went way forward, you're going to see those slots are right there. And so this is the link that you can share, and someone can come in and grab this appointment slot, fill it out, and then it books that appointment with you and takes that away from your calendar. So that's a really great way to be able to have some open time that people can come and schedule you digitally. And you may or may not see this referenced on the exam. So I wanted to make sure that I did do a quick overview with that, with you on that as well. So that is what's mentioned here inside of appointment slots. All right, questions about calendar?
I think we're good. There was a question about making the calendar public, or so that everyone in the organization could see it. And we also mentioned in the chat that it is possible to create assignments in Google Classroom. And when you create assignments, they show up in the class's individual calendars. So Felicia said, I have 17 classes. Can I create events for my 17 groups at the same time? Well, one of the options would be to create the events, the assignments inside Google Classroom, and then events would show up in all the 17 classrooms at the same time.
Absolutely. That is the perfect solution. Thank you so much. We are so lucky to have amazing support in the chat. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So let's move into Gmail. So in Gmail, we have some different things that I want to review with you from level 1 and level 2. So bear with me. Please don't judge my messy personal Gmail inbox as we dive on over there. There's probably junk emails and things, so please bear with me on that. But the things that I want to go over with all of you, the first thing would be this organization options that you can see right here, creating labels. So if I go to the very bottom and click on more and keep scrolling, I have the ability to manage and or create labels. If I go into this manage area, it's going to show you the different labels that I have created. And I can create new labels straight from here or using this create button. And what a label is I kind of think of them as folders. So it's a way for you to create an organization place. So maybe I wanted to create a folder called sample. I could create that, and then I'm going to see if I kind of scroll up. Here is my new sample folder or label, as they're called in Gmail. And in this manage area, you can kind of see and control and remove or edit them as needed. But whenever you have and you're in your inbox, so if I go back over here to this email and I want to move this email into my new label that I just created right here, I can come up and use the one of these two options. This first one, label as, would allow me to click here. So now it is part of this sample label, but also still in this area, and it kind of just stays where it's at. If you're like me and you like to move things and kind of have them out of your inbox, you have the ability to use this folder with the move arrow, and then you can say, hey, I want this to go to the sample area, and now it is gone. But if I go over here to sample, there it is. So it's kind of that way to create and organize your email. So definitely something to keep in mind. Also, things that I want to point out inside of Gmail, we have our settings area, and you have your quick settings where you can customize the look. And if you've never tried these, go in here, click around. I love having a reading pane, but most people default to no reading pane. So again, try them out. You just simply click and it adjusts it. And if you don't like it, click right back and it brings it right back to where you were at. You can also go into seeing all of your settings to see all of your Gmail settings in here and work through these different options. I personally love having a signature, which you can add. You can also have multiple signatures, so you can choose to which signature you're going to be using, and or set out of offices. But just remember, in settings, anytime you make a change, always scroll to the bottom and click save. That is really important. You'll also see right here that you have your labels and then all of these fancy settings. But what I wanted to point out are some options that we have in here. You'll see that I have Google Meet and chat kind of populating over here. If I didn't want to see those, I could turn that off right here. And if I didn't want to see my Meet options here, I could also hide that. And just remember, you click save. And look, all of a sudden now it's gone and disappeared. So again, in your full settings, you can make those adjustments right here at any time. Also, I wanted to point out the advanced area where you can enable or disable any of these options. I do recommend going in and enabling templates, because that could be something that you want to practice for the exam, because you may or may not see that. So what a template is when you go to compose an email, in the 3 dots, you have this area called templates, and it allows you to create like pre-built emails that you can select and use. So if I clear this box out and maybe I send an email that says like a reminder, like reminder to check your Google Classroom for homework. And maybe I send this email often. And so I can build it, but not necessarily put who it's to. And now I can click my 3 dots and click save draft as a template and make a new one. Give it a name and click save. And so now if I go back into my templates, I can see there's my, I have a reminder, a homework reminder, a reminder email, and a field trip reminder. So now anytime I compose an email or reply, I can use my 3 dots, go into my templates, and then build in that item right there very quickly, very, very easily. So that is another important thing that you may or may not see or be a part of your exam inside of Gmail. Do we have any questions about Gmail?
We do have one. Susan would like to know if it's possible to set up automatic out of office times for evenings. So we have automated email responses, but that are set up for specific times.
So what you could do, if you go into your settings, you can do like a vacation responder, but the hard part about this is you can set dates on and off, but it's not populated by time. So that's not awesome. But like I know some people, like when they're done with work for the day, they come in here and turn it on, click save, and then when they come back to work the next day, they turn it off. So that could be something that you could do.
Excellent.
Any other questions?
We have one. Julie says that she doesn't see the template option in her professional Gmail account.
Were you able to go all the way into your settings and go to advanced? Because you have to enable it first. So try going into your settings, go to advanced, and then enable, click save, and then it should hopefully appear for you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Great question. Of course. All right. Awesome. You guys are amazing. Keep those questions coming. We are just going to keep diving on forward. So right here, we have Google Sheets with some more advanced features, which we due to time, because I want to make sure I get to some tools that we haven't talked about at all yet. We'll send you some more resources for Google Sheets for level 2. I'm writing myself a note so those can be addressed for you as well. So we're just going to kind of keep on chugging forward because I want to make sure I get to Google Sites. Google Books and Google Scholar, if you've never checked those out, try them, just go to their website, books.google.com and scholar.google.com, and check them out. It's a really great tool to find books or to get information on different items. So if you've never checked those out, go in and check them out. Really, really great tools. But now I want to spend a little bit of time, and we're going to do and dive in and spend hopefully only about 10 minutes inside of Google Sites. So I'm going to go over to my Drive, and I'm going to click New. I'm going to hover over the word More, and then I'm going to find my Google Sites option. And I'm going to select that to create a brand new Google site. And Google Site allows you to make a Google website, right? You're making your own online website through utilizing this Google tool. So I'm going to walk you through the basics here and kind of give you an overview, kind of bringing level 1 and level 2 together for Google Sites. So when you're inside of here, and I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more and make it bigger, on the right-hand side, this is where all of your tools are. You have themes where you can choose a pre-made theme for your website, or now brand new, you can make your own. So lots of great options there. You have the Pages tab, and where you build the layers or pages of your Google site. So every website is just a series of pages that are all linked together. So on this Pages tab, this is where you can build those. And when you start a new site, you just have a home page. To add another page, you're going to click on this plus button and name your page and click done. And then you're going to see, oh, there's my next page. And then I could continue adding. So maybe I wanted one about reading, and then I could continue to build, so on and so on. If I hover over a page and click on the 3 dots, I do have lots of great options here as well, including adding a sub page within a page. So maybe I have a reading page, and then I'm going to do a Unit 1 sub page under that, and you'll see I have a little drop down here. And then I could continue to make more sub pages as needed. And the great thing about this is if I went down here and I was like, oh, Unit 3, and I was like, oh no, I meant that to be a sub page, I can always just click and drag. So if I want it to be under here, see how you just kind of click and drag, and then look, oh, now it's a sub page, but wait, it's not in order. So now I can move the order right around and change that, and then just click and drag to where I want it to be. So don't be afraid to kind of change that order, click and drag. Google Sites is very friendly in that respect, is you can click and you can drag and move things on almost any page. So this is the way you kind of create those different levels of those different pages inside of your website. You then have your insert tab, and this is where you add all of your content, from adding text boxes that you simply just start adding your text to and can customize, to adding images where you can upload or you can select them from your Google Drive. Maybe I want to pull in this nice little image right here and drop it onto my page. I could absolutely do that. Notice how I can click and drag and move things around. I can also resize items as needed. Same thing with my text box. I can resize this. I can move it around. Really user friendly, really nice way to be able to put things side by side. You can also add things directly from your Google Drive. So maybe I want to add in our presentation from today. I'm going to drop and insert that, and it just drops it to the bottom of my page here. But again, I can resize as needed. I can use my settings options because this is a slide deck. I can have it play automatically. I can have it loop. Lots of really nice options. I can also take and move this around. Maybe I want this up here, right? I can have that added and click and drag and move things. And the really nice thing is you always have undo and redo if you want to take that back a step or two. Just remember, if you are sharing things from your drive, make sure to have the sharing permissions set to anyone with the link can view, or if this is targeted maybe to a group of students, then maybe just for those students. But make sure the sharing permissions for that item is set up properly, because just because you put it on your website doesn't mean that the sharing has been automatically adjusted. So do keep that in mind. You also have the ability to choose from pre-made layouts or add any of these amazing options that you see down here below, including adding videos from YouTube if you would like. You could add in your Google Calendar. So maybe you had a Google Classroom calendar and you're like, oh, it's this one. I want to drop this calendar on here. So you could add in that calendar, absolutely. But again, don't forget to go to the calendar settings and make it viewable for the public if you are going to be putting it on your website. You can add in maps, specific tools if you want as well. So lots of amazing, amazing options of things that you can add. And whatever page you're on is what you are building to. So if I wanted to build into this page, then I would simply focus to this page and then come back to my insert area and add in my items right there. So that's the very basic foundation. Reviewing some other buttons we have, I love the preview button up here because it allows you to preview your site in either a large screen made like a computer screen, a tablet mode, and or how it would be viewed on like a cell phone type of item. So really great way to be able to see what people are going to see when they come to your website. You can share your website. So maybe have another collaborator. Maybe this is a team website. You could add collaborators right here, which is also great. And then you have your settings option. So you can choose your navigation option and look into any of these other options as needed from your settings. And then you can go through version history. You can duplicate a site and also use any of these helpful tools down below. Finally, once you are ready to publish your site, you're going to push this big publish button. For the very first time, it's going to take you to this site and you will fill in these items and then you will go ahead and click in publish. I'm not going to publish this site because there's really not much to it, but once it is published, then it is live on the web. And what I love about Google Sites is you click publish, it goes live on the web, and then maybe you come in later and you do some more work to it. You come in and you're like, oh, I want to add something to my reading page. I can come in here and I can work on this site and it will automatically save it into my Google Drive, but it will not go live on the web for people to see until I come back and click this publish button again. That's the most important thing to remember, is that anytime you make a change, always click publish to then show those updated changes. Otherwise, you will be seeing them, but no one else will be. So do keep that in mind. But it's really nice because then you can kind of have something where you're prepping something, but maybe it's not ready to go live. You can have it in there ready to go and then publish once you have had that chance to do that. So again, that was a very quick overview, but I really just wanted to give you that nice walkthrough. Questions?
Yes, Katie, we do have one. Jennifer would like to know, is there a way to restrict access to the website to a specific group of students or to a domain or something like that?
Absolutely.
Or when we publish it, does it go live for the entire world?
So there are a couple of things that you can do. You can, if you like have a group of your students, maybe you're using Google Groups, you could add them here. So like when I go to add someone, if I'm adding Michelle, I can give her edit access, or I can say, you're just going to view the published version. So you can share it with someone from this little person with the plus symbol, that little sharing icon, and just give them published view only access. So that's something you can definitely do right there. You can also come down here into the links area and say, okay, so I want my published site, and I'm on a personal account, but most likely you'll see a third option that says like publish to your school domain. So you can also just publish it just within your district as well. So those are a couple of different options that you can check out and try. Any other questions?
There is one asking if Google has user guides for their different features or apps. Is there a way for us to find the instruction booklets for every every app?
When you're inside of most Google tools, there'll generally be some sort of area that has like a help option or a support or an about. But I do also want to point out, if you go to support.google.com, this is one of my favorite places. I visit this area all the time, and it will connect you, and you can describe your issue, or you can be like, oh, I want to learn more about Google or about Gmail. So I can go in here, and then I can also browse and get step-by-step directions and help utilizing tools. So support.google.com. Great questions. Anything else?
No, we're good. Thank you.
All right, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for hanging in there with me, asking these amazing questions, and just diving through this amazing, massive amount of content. So moving into more tools, YouTube, we'll be sending some resources on YouTube as well. But again, you can always go and look a lot of this up also in that support page that I just showed you as well. Blogger is a tool that has recently gone through some changes, has definitely changed who can use it in terms of age uses. So I'm not going to demo that one today because in most cases, most teachers can't utilize this tool with students because they are under the age of 18, things like that. Those changes have been kind of coming through about Blogger, but you could definitely look up that tool, but it is through Google, and it's making an online blog, and it's a very user-friendly tool. We also have some advanced Google Docs things in here that I want to just very quickly highlight. So I'm going to go back to my drive and open up that amazing sample document and just go over a couple more things with you that I think are super helpful. So oh, you can see Michelle came in, see? So Michelle came in and kind of left a comment. So that's also a fun way that you can see the interaction that you can have, whether you're together or far apart, like Michelle and I currently are. So super fun way to have that interaction. So shout out to Michelle, thank you. All right, some other things that I want to bring up are in our tools dropdown. So this tools dropdown has some really, really excellent tools that I want to highlight. The first one is the citation tool. This is relatively new, recent tool that allows you to build citations. You can choose what type of citation, and then you just follow the prompt. So what type of citation is it? It's a website. And then you just, again, you fill it in, you type in the required information. So if it has a little asterisk, it's required. If it doesn't, then you don't have to. And then you simply just fill this in. So I'm just going to type in the required thing so you can kind of see what it does. And then each one is a little bit differently depending on what source type you're doing. Okay. And just moving quickly through this. Obviously, you would not do this normally, but I just want to show you what it looks like. So once you have all the required items in, you're going to click add, and then it builds it for you, which is great. And then you can use the cite button to build it in, right? And then you can also insert a cite, a works cited, which turned out really big because I have my items really big. So let's take that down a little bit smaller, and you can build in a works cited page. If you want it, you can see right here, it just dropped it in where my cursor was. So if you want it at the end of your document, make sure you go after your text and then click this beautiful insert. So do keep that in mind. Citations, super awesome, really helpful for a lot of students. We also have the Explore tool, which will allow you to do search right inside of your doc. So instead of having multiple tabs to do research, that Explore tool will allow you or your students to do it right inside of your Google Doc. We also have the ability to translate the document and choose from lots of language options. So that's very helpful. We also have this amazing option called voice typing, and this is really powerful for a lot of students. So you can choose your language right here, and then when, again, make sure where you want it to voice type is where you have it selected. And then you're going to click on this big microphone, and now anything I say is being typed into my document, period. It is not perfect, but it does pretty well, period. Then when you're done, you click that red item and it stops. Note that you have to say punctuation if you want it to appear. So again, super powerful. I do this with a lot of students who struggle with typing to start. We'll use voice typing and then they go in and they make changes and adjustments as needed. So definitely a super powerful, amazing tool that you will want to share with your students if you feel that is helpful and needed for them. We've talked about hyperlinking text already and things like that. So those are just some things, because we're tight on time, that I wanted to highlight with all of you. Do we have any questions about Google Docs?
There is just one. We mentioned the Explore tool a little bit. Can you show us where it is? I think you went over the Explore tool, maybe a little bit.
So under Tools and Explore, or it also lives in the bottom corner. And when you hover over it, it expands, and then you click on it and it pops out for you.
Excellent. And if you maybe just a quick addition to that, if you use the Explore tool and you look for websites or images, then you can also cite those search results directly in your document automatically. That's another way to use citations as well. And we have another question. Can we touch on hyperlinks just a little bit?
Absolutely. So I'm just going to start some fresh text down here to kind of have a little bit cleaner area. So if I have some text or a set of text and I want to hyperlink it, you would select the word or words, and you can use our link option right here in your toolbar, or you can go to Insert, come all the way to the bottom and click on Link, and then you can copy and paste your link in or type it in. Click the word apply, and now when you click on that, it would take you to the website. Great question. Anything else?
Maybe just to answer Felicia's question, if you use the Explore tool and you look for the word dog or something, anything, when you hover your mouse over the search results, you'll see little quotation marks that will show up. And if you click on that, then you can insert. If you scroll down just a little bit, one of these. So see in the top right corner, you'll see cite as footnote. And if you click on that, the footnote will be created automatically for that website, which is pretty handy. Actually.
Absolutely. Thank you for that amazing pro tip. I love that. Awesome. Notice because my cursor was in the middle of my word there, that's why it appears. So again, just another time to make sure you have that where you want it before you do that wonderful insert. So do keep that in mind. But thank you for that really great tip about in the Explore tool. I really appreciate it. All right, any other questions?
People were wondering if there were going to be questions about citations in the level 2 exam.
So there may or may not be. I can't say for sure because when you go to take the exam, it kind of pulls it from a bank of questions. So you may see some questions and then another person could see completely different ones. So it really can be kind of hit or miss. But that's why I liked to review just those basics with you. But do remember, it's multiple choice, drag and drop. So it'll be more about just being familiar with what it basically does.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Going well.
Any other questions?
No, we're good.
All right. So the final two tools in our workbook here are Google Maps and My Maps. And again, really just being familiar with what these tools are. Google Maps, most of us are familiar with it, like on our mobile devices, on our cell phones, we'll use Google Maps. We'll open that tool to like get directions to go somewhere. Just know that you can also access it from your computer. You can open up a new tab and go to maps.google.com and you can access your Google Maps this way too. It's not only inside of an app on your phone. And you can make multiple step directions and do things like set departure and arrival times. Whereas then we have another tool called Google My Maps, which generally lives inside of our drive. So it's one of those, if you click new, hover over more, you can see Google My Maps. So this is a map tool that is really great because it lives in your drive. You can add people to work on it with you, but it's more kind of like a flat lay map that you can add layers to and identify different things from around the world. So those are kind of a very quick overview on those, and you can definitely check those out, but just being familiar with just those basic differences, and I would encourage you to explore them when preparing for the exams as well. So with that being said, I am going to kind of dive back over into our original presentation, and we're going to spend about 10 minutes to go over our top tips and tricks for the exams, level 1 and level 2. And then we're going to wrap up with some feedback and some questions, and then we will be done very shortly. So thank you all so much for kind of hanging out with us and asking your great questions about our tools along the way. So let's dive in. Some of this will be a little bit of review from what we talked about at the beginning of the session, but I like to start with it and then also end with it just to bring it all back together. So the maximum time for each exam is 3 hours. So you have to finish the exam within that 3 hours. At the end of the 3 hours, it will shut off whether you are done or not. So make sure again that you're giving yourself that uninterrupted time for when you sit for each of those exams separately. You will need a device with a webcam because the webcam will be turned on and it will take pictures throughout your exam to verify that it is you taking your exam. I do recommend using Chrome, and you can use an incognito window. An incognito window is a window that allows you to open it up and not pull in your browser preferences. To access an incognito window, you're simply just going to click on the 3 dots in the upper corner of Chrome and go and click on New Incognito Window, and it will pop that out for you. Remember, when you're working through the exam, if you're at a question that you aren't sure about, give it your best answer and click that Review Later button so then you can come back to it. But don't spend too much time because you want to make sure you get through it. Normally, one of the biggest reasons why people are not successful is they run out of time. So if you're not sure, select an answer, tag that Review Later, and move on to the next one. Okay, and it is totally okay to have a second computer next to you to do a quick lookup or things like that, or maybe if it's asking for how do you do something and trying the order of it, that is totally acceptable. And remember, you have got this. You are all amazing. I can tell by the questions you are asking that you guys are really familiar with a lot of these tools. So hopefully what we've reviewed today, and then maybe coming back and reviewing the video or the resources we share, will help kind of give you those little bit of extra preparation for the exam.
Hey, Katie,
We've also, yes.
I'd just like to add just one tiny little detail. Just the reason for the incognito window is that if you use your own account and then you log into your exam account or something like that, then you might have, crossovers and it might not bring you to the right spot. So using that incognito window is a great way to keep things separate, and this way you're good. And Catherine would like to know also that the second computer, is this a new rule? You can open another tab or another Chrome session somewhere else on your computer and switch back and forth between tabs, so that's fine. But having another computer is just sometimes simpler. It might save you time because you might accidentally close a tab or something like that. So if you have two different computers, you do your research on one and then you do your exam on the other. It's a way to be just a little safer, just in case you close something that you didn't want and then you start panicking a little bit. But you do have permission to look up references, and it's an open book exam.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you for those extra tips. Really, really important. We do have the link right here for where you can go to register. Please do note that when you register, it can take 24 to 48 hours for you to receive your email saying your exam is ready. So if you want to take the exam tomorrow, you would want to register today. Once you receive that email that your exam is ready, you have 8 days to log in and take your exam. Once you log in and start your exam, the 3 hours have begun. There is no way to pause it. So do keep that in mind. But I do also want to say, when you're taking this 3-hour exam, if you need to get up and use the restroom, you can do so. That is totally fine. Just make sure you come back quickly. If you're like me, I drink a lot of water and things like that. So sometimes I have to get up. And then remember, it is a timed test. So keep that in mind. Also, just another couple of things to kind of help give you some tips and tricks to be successful. Just trust yourself. Make sure you're in a place with really reliable internet, that you're familiar with the stuff that we talked about today, that you do some reviewing and some preparation, whether it be coming back to this video, going through our resources that we share out, things like that. But trust yourself. You have got this. You will be successful. We are here to help, and I'm happy to answer questions while we're here today, but I do like to just kind of give those tips and tricks along the way, so that way just a little bit of reminders from some of us who have taken the exam multiple times. Also, a reminder, you can sign up for the updates from Google for Education at this link right here, which we can also pop into the chat for you one more time. And as we wrap up today, we are happy to take questions, and I can do some more demos. But before we do that, we'd really appreciate your feedback. If you can please complete this feedback form, which we will also drop in the chat in just a moment, we would really, really greatly appreciate that. We definitely do review that and really value your feedback on today's session. So if you can fill that out, please do so right now. We do have time left in our session. We are not going anywhere, but I want to make sure to give time to fill that out. And then also let us know if you have questions. We are here to help. I'm happy to go back in this last chunk of time and review things, talk about things, answer questions, all of that good stuff. But first, please fill out this feedback for us.
And Katie, while I've just shared the 2 links for the newsletter and the feedback, I'll share them again in a few seconds. But we did have one question. Can you show us where we can find practice questions? So I know in the workbooks there's a little section where it says you can find practice questions in English there. So if you could show that to us, I think it would be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. So I am in my level 2 workbook. So I'm going to go kind of back to the top of it, and I'm going to go to slide 3. And you'll see, and so this will also be the same for that level 1. You'll see right there, there's a link to some sample exam questions. This one is added right in here for you. You can see that it's very up to date, and then you can kind of walk through and see and get a peek into what that looks like and these different types of questions. So definitely check this out.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. Yes. Any other questions?
Felicia would like to know if there is anything else she needs to know in Sheets.
So there, I know we didn't dive into all the parts of Sheets for level 2, but I can take a few minutes and kind of go back into that since we have some time and not a ton of questions coming through. So in level 2 for Sheets, right here, we have some different things that I can go over and talk about right now. So I'm going to pop over to my drive and open up my level 2 sheet with some sample data. Let me close out a couple of these tabs real quick. There we go. So what I have right here is some more sample data. You'll see we have names and we have different pieces of data for students. And so we have some tools for level 2. This first one is called conditional formatting. Conditional formatting allows you to format specific data to do something specific. So for example, if I wanted for term 1A average, I could select the whole column, come up to my format and go over to conditional formatting. And I can say, okay, so I want this to highlight if it is a certain number. So maybe if it is less than 75, I want it to turn like a light red to be like, hey, there's something going on here. So look, I have now turned any number in that column light red if it's less than 75. So I'll show you that one more time. To do conditional formatting, you select your range of data, whether it be a column or a row or something specific. You select your range. You're going to go to format. You're going to go to conditional formatting, and then you're going to choose what you want it to do. You have lots of options here, as you can see. But again, I'm going to go if it's less than 75, and then I'm going to change that color and click done. So now it's highlighting anything that is less than 75. So that is conditional formatting, which is one of those options we talked about here. Filter views are a way to be able to turn on and create filters. If you simply just click on your filter, it will automatically turn on filter options for any data that you have in here, meaning that you can sort by that data in there for that column. So if I come over here to name, right, and I can sort Z to A, and it brings the data with them, and then bring that back as well. So that's a way you can have it filter. You can also create custom filters right there inside of Google Sheets. We also do inside of Google Sheets have that Explore tool. Our Explore tool inside of Sheets does a couple of different things from formatting to different analysis options. So you can check those out as well. And we do have add-ons, which are tools that can enhance your use. It's kind of like an extension, but specifically inside of a tool. And then we also have pivot tables that can be made, which allows you to really kind of customize your data. So you would start by selecting all of your data, and then you would come to the data dropdown and select pivot table and add that onto a new sheet. If you're making a pivot table, you can use the suggestions, which is really great, or you can simply just add your own information. So you want to choose what your rows and columns are. So maybe my rows are going to be the student names. It can be whatever I choose, my columns, my values, I want to do my turn to be grade, and then I can have that bring in there. Notice you can again customize here. There's lots and lots of options. If you see these types of things come up, that means probably what you selected is not going to work. So the pivot table just allows you to really take a larger piece of data and then really customize it what you want it to see right there. So that was a quick overview. Hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that kind of answered some of your questions along the way. Thank
Okay,
you
we
for
do
dropping in
have-
those links again. That's awesome.
You're welcome. We do have other questions. Geneviève, you raised your hand. Can we...
Oui, deux questions. Est-ce qu'on peut faire le test en français?
Donc oui, l'examen existe en version française. Par le passé, je vais être honnête, il y avait quand même des petits problèmes de traduction dans l'examen. Donc certaines phrases, les formulations n'étaient pas toujours adéquates. Donc il y a eu ça. Le nouvel examen, je pense que c'est beaucoup mieux. Mais par le passé, on recommandait aux gens qui étaient en mesure de faire en anglais de le faire en anglais.
Okay, parce que là, pour les questions pratiques, c'est juste en anglais. Hein? Parce que je regardais là, sur le livre en français, ça dit questions de pratique en anglais. C'est ça? Il n'y en a
Oui,
pas en
ben, c'est ça. Je vais être franc, il y a un petit enjeu de traduction. Donc, le centre de formation pour les enseignants Google a un site web qui contient beaucoup de textes, puis beaucoup d'explications, puis qui peut nous guider pour nous aider. Mais les vidéos qui sont là ne sont pas en français. Des fois, il y a des captures d'écran qui n'ont pas été refaites en français. Donc, 95% du temps, on est capable de trouver la capture d'écran menait vers quel endroit. On se retrouve assez facilement, c'est assez standard, mais il y a quand même des petites vidéos, des petites choses là, qui ne sont pas toujours là en français. Donc, pour ça, souvent, on recommande de le faire en anglais, mais pour les vidéos, quand on voit les sous-titres, on peut changer les sous-titres des vidéos pour les avoir en français. On peut avoir le transcript là, de ces vidéos-là pour lire, puis s'approprier le contenu plus rapidement. Donc, ça fonctionne aussi.
OK, merci.
Wonderful. We also got some questions. I did provide another link to more information on pivot tables in the chat, so you can check that out. It's from the Google support page, so that is more information on that. Julie asked a question, is there a Google tool or extension to manage and view students' BYOD screens? I do not know of any, and feel free if you do to share anybody, but unfortunately not. That would be awesome, but not at this time. There are tools out there. They're not Google tools. They're by other companies, and I am definitely not an expert in them. I know they exist, but not through Google.
But you can manage Chromebooks if you have a cart of Chromebooks, and then you have more power on managing what's going on those devices. But when it comes to bring your own devices, that's a whole other story, which is not Google related for today. Other questions?
Julie, I'm not sure what you mean, only with forms and Chromebooks.
Because he was saying that with Chromebooks, you can manage the screens, but I think it's only if the students are using Google Forms, then you can block the form on the student's Chromebook.
Oh, I see.
Really manage other applications, I don't think.
So what he was referring to is you can manage Chromebooks of what they, setting permissions and things, but you can't actually see their screens. Google Forms does have the ability to turn on the ability when they go to the form, or it locks them into the form until it's completed and turned in. And that would be yes on a Chromebook. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Thank you for the clarification. Any other questions? Anything we can help provide support for? We have, 8 or 9 minutes left. Again, please make sure you fill out that feedback for us. We greatly, greatly appreciate it, but we are here to help and support. I know this was a very fast-paced session, and I really appreciate all of you hanging in there with us. I hope it was helpful. I hope you learned some new things along the way to help prepare you for level 1 and 2. But we're happy to take any questions if you want to unmute or put it in the chat. We are here. I can do any more demos in the final few minutes. If not, and you have filled out our feedback, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.
And maybe I could share a final recommendation. My strategy is usually to recommend to the teachers I met to just click everywhere. You know, before you take your exam, before you sign up, just open up the apps and open all the menus and click. Every time you see those 3 little dots, those Timbits, click on there and just know what the words are and the options are. Even if you're not 100% familiar with what every single button does, at least you'll remember. So, oh yes, I remember that there's a way to share the calendar, and then you go in the calendar, and then it might come back to you that, oh, it's the Timbits and then the settings and the options and make available to the public, and then you'll find it a lot easier if you play around with all those buttons beforehand.
Absolutely. I love that tip.
And yes, the exams are not free. Level 1 is $10 US. Level 2 is $25, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Great questions. Yes, go ahead and unmute or share with us.
Am I on? I'm on a strange screen setup now. So I believe we do have codes for the exams to bypass the charge because you participated in this session. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but I'm pretty sure we can follow up with those via email and make sure that that people you can pay at a different time, but you'll have at least access to a free pass for certain ones for participating today.
Absolutely.
Oh,
and I will make sure that gets shared out via email for all of you. Thank you very much.
And Rachel, I'm glad you're back. Thank you very much for participating in this workshop. And we're very happy that there's something happening in Quebec with Google workshops and all that. So this is greatly appreciated. So thank you. I think teachers from all over will really appreciate the training opportunities. And every time teachers can save a little bit of time and find tools to make their lives easier and their teaching more relevant, I think this is just fantastic. So thank you.
It's wonderful, and I'm really learning alongside you as well, especially as I'm so new to the role. I do know a lot about certain Google tools from my previous role, so if anyone has questions, you can fire them my way as well. And if not, we have excellent resources from Cobblestone to help us get more answers as well. I do sincerely mean it when I share my email address. Feel free to be in touch, and especially if your principals or your administrators are looking for more information. Or if you're looking to use more tools, Google tools in your classrooms, and you need to work with them to make that possible, I'm here to provide that information to get all that going. So no, thank you for letting me join your session today and listen and learn as well.
That was fun. And Talika, the level 1 and level 2 exams, these are the first steps. And if you want to push your learning further and your expertise further, then there's the Google Trainer Program and the Google Innovator Program, which are 2 different paths, even more advanced, that will open up incredible doors for you as well.
Absolutely. And you can always learn more about those items in the Google Teacher Center as well, which is linked in our workbooks on those first few pages for you. So you can learn about those there. We can do our best to answer those questions for you if those do come up right now, but you can also go and extend your learning there. Really amazing a resource. And we are so grateful for the opportunity to spend this day with all of you.
Yes, Felicia, go ahead.
Okay, it'll be easier. Will there be any interactive online or whatever workshops for those higher levels? Because I've never seen any.
Well, you have to sign up. There's a selection process, and there's for the trainer program, there's an exam. You need a referral from an official Google trainer. And for the innovator program, well, these occur all around the world. Every 3 months, I think there's one. So you need to find the one that's closest to your location, then apply, and there's a selection process for that as well.
Thank you.
And yes, we will be, you will be receiving an email with the recording and the resources, and all of that information will be coming your way after we're done here today and everything has been processed. It does take a little bit to process all the videos, but we will make sure that does get sent out to you. So thank you for that question. Anything else we can help support with in our final few minutes?
Last question. You had gone through the how to schedule digital appointments in calendar, throwing one like so the students could pick. I missed that bit. I don't know. I was writing notes. Could you do you have a second
The
to-
appointment slots?
Yeah.
Sure.
While you get set up, Katie, I'll just answer Tina. If you fail the exam, you can take it again at a later date, but they will tell you in the email. So I believe it's 2 weeks or 10 days. So you have to wait, and then you can take it again.
All right, so here is my calendar. If I wanted to make some appointment slots, you go to the day and time you want to add those. You select that, and then you make sure that you select the option for appointment slots. I like to go into the more options so I can really customize it, and I can, put in all my information, make it repeat if I would like it to or not, customize everything in this window, and then when you're ready to go, you click save, and that appointment slot or slots are now available. And then this link right here for the appointment page, this is what you share out for people to go in and grab those slots, and then it drops it onto your calendar for you.
But you had also added like different time slots where students could click on and make the appointment.
Yep. So when you are in that window and you are creating it, that's where that customization comes in. So if I, when I made this, I know that's popping up. There we go. When I was in this area right here, that's where you can customize this. So you can change, like, do you want this to be maybe only 15 minutes? So you can adjust that, and then you can also choose, how often do you want this to repeat? Or you can even go into the custom area where you're like, okay, I want this to repeat every day, until, so if this was December 20th, I wanted to repeat for 3 days, I could have it do that. Click done. So that this area right here is where you make those customizations, and then you click save, and it will appear on your calendar.
I don't remember seeing that section. I'm going to have to take a look at that.
So when you make it, click on more options and it will pop it out for you.
More options. Okay. Thank you.
It's
You're
a great
welcome.
time saver for parent meetings.
Oh, yeah, eh? Oh, wow. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Catherine, yes, you can. Yep. So that's the perfect tool for that. So you set up your dates, the total amount of time you have, you split it up into smaller sections, and then you can repeat that every 2 days or for every week, every month, or however you like, and you'll save a ton of time. You can also use this for oral presentations in class when your students, who's going to go first, and you set up the calendar with time slots, and then all your students sign up using the appointment slots, and boom, there's no arguing. It's all done.
It's wonderful. It's a really, really amazing tool. Just remember, it's in your education account. So if you're like in your personal Gmail, you're not going to see those options there.
Good point.
That could be why you're missing parts of it too. If you're in a personal Gmail right now, I apologize for not saying that sooner. Yes, that is the key, is you need to be in an education account. Excellent.
Well, Katie, I think our time is up, so I will end the recording. Thank you so much to you for this great action-packed workshop. We learned a lot. Thank you again to Rachel and Google Montreal. Thank you very much. And we hope to see you again very soon for other incredible workshops for Google. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
You too.